My name is Seth Christensen. This is the Got Any Cows podcast. As Jonathan LaRue says, I may not know anything about anything else, but I do know a lot about cows.
You know cows.
I'm Seth Christensen here with the Got Any Cows podcast, and today I have my beautiful wife, Hailey Christensen, on the show with me. And, we'll just get the first question everyone is wanting the answer to out of the way for anyone watching the video of this podcast. How does a guy that looks like me end up with a girl that looks like you? How did that happen?
Oh, stop. How could it not happen? Seriously.
I am dapper.
You are so dapper. You are. Let me just tell you. No, for real though. Are we going back to the beginning?
Yeah.
Beginning
go ahead and
when it began.
Tell people how does that even happen for all the guys that look like me out there? How is it possible? How do you end up married
they're not set
to someone that looks like?
So that's the thing.
That's true. There's not any hope for anyone else.
It's true. It's true. You are one of a kind. That is your strength.
That's a word for it. Yeah.
That's your strength.
Yeah.
Well, we actually first got acquainted in high school, right?
True story.
But he doesn't remember that actually.
Oh no, I remember. You were there. I was a senior.
I was there, but do you remember? I was for sure there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember.
Yeah. Oh no, I remember. Yep.
I was a freshman and Seth was a senior. We were on a ballroom dance team together. And
As
choir.
you can tell by my physique, I
And
am
choir.
definitively a dancer.
A very good dancer, actually, might I add. Very good dancer.
Yeah.
That's where we got acquainted. I guess that was the first part, which is actually kind of surprising because my high school experience was very different than Seth's. He was involved in FFA, was the biggest thing. Yeah. He'd started the business a long time ago, and so cows has been his thing for forever. And for me, that wasn't the case. It was more of the arts, and I played the piano a lot growing up. I accompanied for choirs, and that was just kind of my thing, was more of the arts, the piano, the choirs, the ballroom dancing. And so for us to end up doing some of those same things, I think that's actually kind of amazing when you think about it. How did you even get involved with ballroom and with choir?
Yeah.
I don't think I've heard the full story on this. I'm just curious.
So to be fair, my ballroom experience, I danced from 4th to 8th grade because my dear mother said, you will. And so I did. And then...
Because she's smart.
She is.
She's
a brilliant lady.
Yeah.
Bless her soul for raising us boys. But, did ballroom from 4th till 8th grade. And then in high school, I had the option. And so I immediately opted out. So I did no ballroom my freshman, sophomore, junior years of high school. And then I had a friend of mine, childhood friend, that she's tall, very, very capable dancer, but she's tall. And she said, Seth, I need somebody to come dance with us that can lift me, which is ridiculous.
Because you're tall too.
No, yeah, very tall. Yeah, I stand 5'10".
No, you should be flattered, that she would ask you to do that.
Yeah, she wanted someone that could lift her, and she was not even slightly heavy. She just was tall.
So you're tall and strong.
Clearly, yeah. 6'4", dark, handsome. Yeah, and.
You should take it as a compliment.
Yeah, so she asked me to dance, and so I did, and that was where I first met you, but danced with your sister.
Yes.
Actually.
Hung her upside down.
True story.
Yes.
That did happen. Yes, well, I mean, it wasn't intentional, but anyway, long story there, but yeah,
She ended up upside down.
She ended up upside down.
But long story
unintentionally.
short, that's how we got acquainted.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we got to know each other in high school. There at Preston High School.
Just barely though.
Right. I knew who you were, because I was a senior, so I was really cool.
I was too cool for him, is what he's saying.
Yeah. That. Yep. You were for sure too cool.
I was the coolest freshman.
Yeah. So that's where we met.
And that's...
Yeah. And you'd have been a freshman.
Yep, I was a freshman.
Yep. And then I went on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I served in Nicaragua, so spent a couple of years there. And then when I got home...
But before that, hold on, we're missing
did I skip something?
Yes.
What did I miss?
Yes, we're missing stuff.
Tell me in.
Well, first of all I knew about you in high school was you were hilarious. Could make anybody laugh.
Thank you.
And that was impressive to me. It really was.
Thank you.
Also, my mom told me of this journal entry she got once. She wrote down in her journal that had Seth in there because my sister played powder puff football, got an awesome black eye. Just awesome.
It was impressive.
It was impressive. Yeah. Just so good. But naturally, when you have, something like that on, you're just kind of self-conscious about it. But it was the coolest thing. And Seth told her that. And it just made my mom feel so good that she would tell my sister how cool it was that she had a black eye.
It was awesome.
So you ended up in my mother's journal back in the day.
Well, she had played Powder Buff, so she had played a football game. Do you remember Powder Buff? Do you remember Powder Buff being a thing? Do you remember what Powder Buff was? No, was it not a thing when you graduated high school? Okay, so Powder Buff
now I feel
is
stupid.
No, you're good. Maybe they outlawed it because people were getting black eyes, but football, it's the girls. The girls play football.
That's
and
what
the
Powder
boys
Puff is.
Oh yeah. So what's Powder Buff?
Volleyball.
Right. Yeah, different thing. We may need to edit that.
No,
or
I
we
like
could leave
it.
Okay, so we've established I'm not that bright or that physically attractive, but I was funny. Okay, so going back
You
to
are funny.
Powder Puff, because you're right. Yeah, Powder Puff. That's the
I like
thing.
Powder Puff.
It's
Powder
been a
Puff
long time
better.
since high school.
It's been a long time.
Apparently that wasn't last year. Yeah, Powder Puff. Yes, that's how she got her black eye.
Yeah.
I think she took like an elbow to the eye
Yes.
playing flag football.
Exactly.
Was what had happened.
And the point of the story is that you were so kind to her and ended up in my mother's journal, even when I was a freshman.
Yeah. So that happened.
You should take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing I had a positive note there, because immediately upon returning from my mission.
You are jumping all over the place.
Oh no, we're totally in line here, because
Okay,
it
keep
says
going.
the next thing is like talking about dating at Utah State. So I'm leading right into that.
Oh, okay.
That is where we're going. So I came home from the mission, and immediately started helping with grain harvest. And my dad told me to take this load of wheat from this field up this ridiculous back route to get to this mill to deliver this wheat. Anyway, I did it once, and it was like as sketch as you could be. Like, this truck was not set up to take this load down these routes. And so I'm like, why would I run these ridiculous back roads? Like, I'm going to go down the perfectly good highway connecting, this field to this mill. And so I took the truck right past a pop-up port and got my only misdemeanor I've ever had in my entire life within like a week of returning from a religious mission for the church. And they print that in the newspaper. And I didn't realize anyone ever read like the news of record in the newspaper. But turns out your mother does in fact read the news of record. So luckily I had something from high school in my favor, because immediately upon returning from my mission and starting to date you, I had a misdemeanor in the newspaper.
That is pretty embarrassing. I forgot about that. But that didn't happen.
So it's right in the timeline. I went on the mission, came back, got snagged by the DOT, and then spent some time in prison. No, I'm just kidding.
7 years in prison.
Yeah. So then we went on our first couple dates that summer, and then went down to Utah State.
Well, yes. Yep. So Seth would have gone to Utah State for a year before his mission, though.
Yeah, that's true also.
While I was in high school. So that would have been my sophomore year.
Yeah.
My junior and senior years when he was in Nicaragua. Mm-hmm. And then he came home after that.
Yep. So then we transitioned from, I was a senior and you were a freshman. So, like upper class at the time. But then I came home, and then we were both going
freshmen.
to Utah State. Yeah, I was a sophomore. You were a freshman, but we were both going to Utah State. So then it was, socially acceptable. Yeah, for me to date you.
Yeah, no, it was great. I got this random Facebook message from Seth right when he got back, because, let's see, I graduated, and then he got home, was it 3 weeks after that or something?
Right after.
Pretty soon.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I got a Facebook message from Seth that said, "Hey, Hailey, what are you doing on Saturday?" I thought, oh, that's bold. That's to the point. I respect that. I respected that a lot, actually. There was no beating around the bush. It was just, what are you doing on Saturday? Yeah. But, of course, naturally, my response was just, family stuff. I don't know. I wasn't ready.
I got like 4 no's for every 1 yes. So if
there's
more
like 5 no's for every yes.
To be fair, if there's any relatively round, relatively unintelligent young men out there with their eye on a beautiful young lady, just remember, all you got to do is be funny and persistent, and the rest of it'll work out just fine. That's pretty well how it played. I think.
Whatever.
Yeah. What was next in your recollection? 'Cause I jumped out of order, I guess.
Oh gosh. Well, now I have to think. You came home from your mission.
We got Utah State.
Yep. No, first date. We need to go back to our first date.
Oh, okay.
First date. Seth explained AI to me on our first date completely.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So if you're suave, you'll win the girl. Yeah. Go right into artificial insemination. This has been Dating Notes with Seth. You know.
I thought it was hilarious. I mean, he was explaining it to me, and actually my first thought was, okay, that's great that you have a direction, you know, sense of direction. But then I was like, is that even legal? AI? I wasn't familiar with it, you know.
I prefer professional cow molester as my...
It's true.
My job title,
I wasn't sure if it was legal or not, honestly.
Yeah,
but yeah, you did explain it to me on our first date. But I was very impressed with the fact that you had a direction, and you'd mentioned multiple times about the cow thing when you started when you were so young, and I had never met anybody that was so dedicated and driven to something from that early of an age. And so I really respected that of Seth. And I feel like we became automatic friends too, would you say?
Oh, for
was
sure.
Was that your friend?
At a bare minimum, I mean, I really, really, really wanted to like be your lover, and you were like, I guess I will let you into the friend zone. Which is where I stayed for an extended period of time, as I recall.
Oh, gosh. No, I really liked you. But we were for sure good friends first.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
That would have been our first date. Then I was like, he's really cool. I could hang out with him more.
Yeah.
And then we did. We went on another date. I don't know if this was our second or our third date, but we went dirt biking. And you remember this one?
Oh, I totally remember this one. Yep.
This one. I was impressed with Seth again.
This is when I fell in love with you. Tell the story.
This is when you fell in love with me.
For sure.
But I was very impressed with you. We impressed each other on this date. We went dirt biking, and I thought, I've ridden a 50 before. I could handle it, you know. Naturally, I'm a pro because I rode a 50, whatever. So we get on the motorcycles, go up the trail. We get to this cattle guard that's like, you know, one of those.
One of the raised guards.
The raised, yeah,
so
the
rather
raised
than
ones.
A flat guard, it was like angled up, so yay high, 4 feet
it was
tall or whatever.
Up. Yep, and so I remember going over this cattle guard, and then I stalled because I didn't go fast enough. But somehow, magically, out of nowhere, Seth's arms went whoop right under me. He caught me. I did not touch the ground.
Saw an opportunity and jumped on it.
Oh, it was so good. I was like, this is the man for me. No, it took me a little bit more than that. But I was so impressed. I was very impressed that I don't even know how you did that, honestly. You're just so suave.
Wizardry. You know, right after explaining artificial insemination, I thought, you know what I should do? Literally sweep her off her feet. So that was the next step.
I was very impressed by that. So
yeah. Well, I'm glad. Well, shortly thereafter would have been when I remember for sure when I realized, like, I'm in love with this woman. This was like a second or third date or whatever. And after having hit that peaked cattle gate or cattle grate, cattle guard, whatever you want to call it, that you tipped on, I told you, okay, on the next one, just give it gas. Like, if you give it enough gas, you'll go over. Like, no problem. And so I'm following along. You were running in front, and I was riding behind you, just watching, making sure you're okay. And you gave it more gas, all right.
Oh, I did.
Mean, you goosed
I listened to you.
You goosed that. And, I mean, you launched off that next ramp. And I'm like, I watched you go airborne. Like, I've killed her. Like, she's going to die. I'm like, how am I going to explain? You know, this is a mess. And so you're full on airborne. And I'm like, this is not good. And then, you know, I mean, just waiting for, like, the moment of impact, like, you know, bracing. And you come down, like, ride it out smooth. And I'm like, my heart.
I don't know how that happened either. It was divine intervention, I swear.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Good.
It was
well,
really impressive.
We impressed each other on that date, apparently. So good choice of dates.
Yeah, well, you know, I tried hard. I mean, after explaining AI on date one, I figured the bar had been set high, you know, so.
It had been.
Yeah.
But that was a date, too. I decided I could trust you, you know? Like, that. Honestly, you caught me when I was falling. I mean, how romantically awesome is that? You don't see that except in movies, right? And I learned I could trust you. So then my respect grew even more.
Sorry, just bugs in my face. I wasn't like actually like waving at you or saying you smell. It was more so there was a mosquito on my nose.
I saw it. I was going to smack it for you.
Okay. Well, thanks. That was nice of you. Yeah. So we dated, well, I guess a year or so while we were at Utah State. Or a little under, or went on dates. Cause this is another point. Whenever we tell this story, I say we dated for a year. Hailey says we went on dates because there's a distinction.
Both,
between
I guess.
Those. Yeah.
Apparently. Well, It's actually kind of amazing though that we ended up at Utah State, because you were not Seth was not planning on going back to school in the first place.
Yeah.
And lucky for me, our high school offered a music scholarship, and that's the scholarship that I got, was a full ride to Utah State. And
because
so we
Haley's
both ended
an incredible pianist, which she will not tell you, but I will.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So that was a huge thing for me, getting that scholarship. And then Seth ended up there as well. And when we got there, we realized that we were living a minute's walk away from each other. We had no idea until we, I think we were comparing addresses or something, and realized that we would be living that close to each other. And so that was just kind of a nice little happenstance, But it made it really easy for us to date for that next year. We did not just going on dates, but we did everything together. You were my go-to. We were buds.
We
were
the
tight,
things.
all the things. We'd, walk up to campus together. It wasn't like we had to do anything crazy. It was just walking up to campus together, walking back, meeting each other while we were there. We did everything. If there was ever anything cool going on, I wanted Seth there. He was my buddy. That's just how it worked. So we spent a lot of time with each other that year.
Yep, for sure. Well, and then I'm sitting here thinking, like, I've been in love with you the entire time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, this is fantastic. I'm like, this is the best, And but then you started talking about you going on a mission for the church, and
which I had talked about for quite a while.
Right, yeah. I guess the plan had always been present. It had been mentioned probably right from the beginning, and it's kind of one of those. I'm like, I'm thinking life's fantastic because we're together, and you're like, so I'm like thinking I'm gonna go away for a year and a half. So what do you remember of that, Haley?
Yeah, I sure did. That was the plan all along. I was really grateful, though. I was grateful that Seth was so supportive of it.
Yeah.
There was never once I felt like you said, just stay home, No. I didn't feel like that at all. No. Because your mission was so good for you.
Right.
And I wanted the same kind of experience. I think it was really good for me to get away, be on my own, entirely on my own, really, away from family for the 18 months. That was a really good thing for me, and I knew it would be a good thing for me, so that's the direction I headed. And Seth was really encouraging of it. He helped me prepare to leave, all of that, which I was very grateful for. That's pretty atypical, especially in the college scene. If somebody, especially a young lady, right, says she's going to leave, it's like automatic blocker for the guys. They don't want to be your friend, I guess, because you're leaving. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I just thought it was impressive that I never felt discouraged from going.
Well, and that was always the case. Like you'd always talked about going, and obviously, I would have been excited if you were like, hey, let's just stay and just keep hanging out for the rest forever. That would have been great. But it was never something, after the experience that I had in Nicaragua, spending the couple of years there, learning what I learned and being around the people I was around, it was never something like, boy, I would not want you to have that experience, or I would want to take that from you. And so when I knew that you wanted to go, and when you made it clear that was your plan and that's what you were going to do, I thought I'm not going to hold you back in any way, shape, or form. And so the goal was to help you prepare to go and to get you out there so I could get you back. And
well, at that point he's like, just leave. If you're going to leave anyway, just go so you can come home faster. Right.
Yep.
Was kind of
that was kind of the
approach.
feeling for sure. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. But it was really good. It was really good for me, and it was really good for Seth too, right?
Yeah.
It was good for you.
It was.
Because it allowed, we were together so much, which was fantastic. But then when I was gone, and I was sent to London, you never know where you're going to go, but that's where I ended up going. So to be across the pond, to have very limited communication too, because at that point, it's changed now, but at that point it was, you could email home once a week, you could call home twice a year.
Yep.
And so the communication there was really limited, but before I left, he was very supportive. So when I knew that I was going to London, he continued to support me through that. I left. That allowed me time to grow just as an individual, as my own individual. I grew while I was there. I made some wonderful friends. I had awesome experiences. It was such a good thing for me. And Seth stayed home and could just work hard, because when you grow a business, it takes so much time. It takes so much effort, dedication. And I think it was really good that he had that time where I was just not there. And so Seth never had to feel guilty, I guess, right? About spending all of his time doing work. And that's what I wanted him to do. I didn't want him to feel lonely, which he still, I'm sure did.
when Hailey left, so Hailey's leaving, and she's leaving for a year and a half, and we've gone from spending every waking moment together for the bulk of a year.
Yeah.
And then she's just gone. So I mean, like, center of Seth's universe has been like removed. So I mean, full tailspin, you know. And I just remember, like, when you were first gone, like, I just remember sleeping until like 11 in the morning, and then like getting up
So
and like
sad.
eating a Fat Boy and like going back to bed.
We
Fat
call
Boy
it the
being
Fat
like
Boy phase.
ice cream sandwiches, you know, or ice
Yeah.
cream on a stick or whatever. You know, just
Yeah, maybe
it
specify
was
that.
so you know, so miserable. But no, but it was important to me too to support you, you know, and so I mean, always wrote letters like, yeah, you know, I'm doing great, like, my Fat Boy, you know.
Well, the letters that I
doing
got,
fine, yeah.
the letters I got, I'm like, he's fine, he's doing great, which I'm glad that was the case, because that allowed me to focus on the work I was doing there. So
yeah,
that was an important thing. But
and it was good. I mean, the other thing, lesson learned for me while you were away, was I mean, our story, the story of you and I mean, is one and the same with, I guess, the story of the business progressing, because at that point the business was still basically just me.
Yes,
at
it
that
was.
point. And I mean, it kind of as it had been. I mean, all growing up. I mean, starting when I was 11 years old, started to have cows, started doing AI when I was 15, the embryo transfer thing at 17, leased out my little cow herd while I was on my mission, while we dated, was running cows and whatever else. But I hadn't graduated college yet. I was at Utah State with you. And then while you and I were dating, I mean, like, all my focus, like, I had cows. But I mean, like, I'm smart enough to recognize a priority when I see one, you know.
you
And
for sure put me above everything, which was very impressive to me.
it was important, you know. Like, I knew what I had, and I
You were all in. You threw
100%.
You threw everything at it.
Yeah. And so when you left, you know, I mean, it was all I did was work, you know, for a year and a half. Like, I didn't date other girls. I didn't, you know, do a whole. I would spend some time, you know, like with like our church group socially, you know, as far as like spending some time that way. But I mean,
I made some fantastic friends.
Made some really good friends. I'm really grateful for that bunch of kids. But I just worked, you know. I mean, like, you're up at 6 and you work until it's 10, and then you do it again, you know, and did that for a year and a half. But the lesson learned in that window, I mean, for me as an individual, I mean, I didn't have a family to feed. I didn't have a mortgage to pay. I didn't have, you know, I mean, there just weren't a lot of obligations. And so, I mean, making money quickly and just kind of just have, you know, at that point in time, you just feel rich, you know. You're just like, man, I just, you know, making dollars and don't have any obligations, right? But
didn't have a girlfine to spend the money on.
Didn't have a girlfriend to spend the money on.
No girlfriend,
you know,
in the way.
You were on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. And so I you know, I realized, I guess, though, during that time, that I could have all the money in the world and still be miserable. You know what I mean? And just miss you. And so that was a huge learning experience for me before we were ever married. That, hey, you know, I mean, like, does the money matter? Yeah. Like, does this thing need the cash flow? Yes. I need to meet my obligations. But if I made all the money in the world and I didn't have Hailey, like, I don't care, you know.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I was glad for the opportunity to learn that in that setting, you know, and not have it be something that my work had to come between us as a married couple later on, or anything like unto that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess walk me through coming home from your mission and getting married and all that fun stuff.
Well, I got home, would have been November, so this was before school started again, and then just went back to school in, was it January? And Seth was done with school at this point.
Yeah, I graduated,
right?
with a degree in economics while you were away.
He was house sitting for a missionary couple, actually.
Mm-hmm.
They left, and he was house sitting for them. I was at school. We got, you know, reacquainted. He still drove up to campus often to see me. We would go on dates all the time. We spent a lot of time around each other at that point still, and as you know, it should have been before getting married, and it was. So then we decided that it was time to get married, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Am I missing anything?
No,
That's about
I think you did great. I think you did
timeline.
fantastic. So I mean, like, for any of the poor chubby boys out there, I wasn't chubby at that point in time, I guess, to be fair. But for any of the other boys out there that you're thinking, man, I'm shooting way above my league here, like, it is possible. It can be done.
Oh, whatever.
Oh no!
You're
So
nice.
I am ever so grateful that we did get married. And then, I guess walk me through from your perspective some of the first couple months of being married, and I guess transitioning from being newlyweds, which would be 7 years ago, 7.5 years ago, to now, and I guess your role as it relates to the work we do and the work we did together at that point as newlyweds. What
Yeah.
was your role at that point?
So when we were first married, I thought I kind of understood the business. I really did feel like I kind of understand it. Kind of understood it at that point, I guess. But after we were married, it's like we went from spending all this time with each other and going out on these frequent dates to now we're married, we're living with each other, we're with each other all the time, other than when I was finishing school that semester, because we were married in April. So I still had a little bit of school in there. But then that summer, I didn't have school going on. So I helped Seth a lot that summer, actually, with everything.
Everything. You'd have been the
Everything.
CEO at that point in time, the chief everything officer.
Something like that. I learned a lot.
You
I learned
did
a lot.
everything.
We have a picture of me tagging my first calf.
Yep.
I think
yep.
maybe even vaccinated one or two, maybe. Not the calves, but the bigger ones.
Oh yeah.
And what else?
You helped shoot side on
I
a
helped
bunch of
shoot
AI
side
projects.
a lot. Yeah.
Yep.
And so Seth trained me to be, I don't even know what the official term is, but
You
Seth's an AI
helped
technician.
with everything shoot side. Yeah. Yep.
And so, yeah, it's from anywhere from thawing the semen to putting it in the gun and prepping it for him to use.
to
So
put in the cow.
yes.
Yep.
Yep. So he trained me doing that. And that's always been one of my favorite projects. Anytime we were able to do that together, aside from when I have a new baby, that's,
Right. Yep.
we can do that together. And that's something that I really enjoy. And we started doing that right after we were married.
Right.
So
yeah. No, Haley did jump right into it. I mean, right from the get-go. And it is. I mean, when you're doing an AI project and you're running a whole fleet of cattle through the chute and you're needing to get all of these animals bred, you need somebody shoot side that can have everything prepped and have everything ready so that I can do the manual job and get the animals inseminated. And it's anyway, it's a fast-paced deal, and I kind of threw Haley right into it. It's not something that you grew up with or that we're familiar with prior.
Very different, yeah.
But to Haley's credit, I mean, Haley was willing to do what needed done. You know what I mean? Like the work needed done that had always been an important part of the business, especially at that point in time, while we were still getting started and getting rolling. Haley was the workforce. I mean, we had just doubled our workforce. It went from just me to Haley and I, and
scary.
so Haley,
it did. Yeah.
Haley made it happen. I mean, Haley chased cows. Haley put up fence. Haley tagged calves. Haley worked shoot side. Haley drove trucks and cars and ran errands and helped me with my mess of my record keeping system at that point in time, with the early iterations of the website. Haley did everything, and so I think sometimes, as I've had some of these different opportunities to speak to different groups or to share business experience to different groups or things like that, I think, some of these kids might get the misconception that I did it, and it was very much a we did it, it wasn't just me anymore, you know what I mean? And from the moment we got married until now, I mean, it's never been just me anymore, I mean, it's a we effort, and you and I work together, now at this point, raising kids and everything else. But from that point forward, I mean, you've helped me with everything. Anyway, I don't think there's enough credit given to the fact that you help with all those things.
Thank you. Well, it's been really good for me to learn about, because I went from not knowing anything about how AI worked to helping shoot side, and hopefully I know way more now than I did, and I'm still constantly learning it. But I just knew when we got married this was my life, and so it's either you decide it's your life and you just also decide you hate it, or you decide it's your life and just jump in and do it, I guess. So it's just one of those you just have to decide.
Right. And I apologize. I didn't mean to talk over you there.
That's
but okay. I was saying Haley has always been so good to be willing to do whatever needs to be done. And I think that's one of the things that's really crucial, for me as a young businessman or as a young entrepreneur, and going from it being just me to then it was us, and then as we've continued to grow as a business, but having a spouse that's been supportive of that. Hailey has never said, you need to go get a real job, you know what I mean, or go get a standard clock in paycheck, a salary deal or an hourly deal. Hailey has always been supportive of the business efforts here through our entire married lives, and that involves risk, that involves uncertainty, that involves long hours. And it's not without its difficulties. And so I am just profoundly grateful that I have Hailey as my wife, and that she has been, and not only allowed me to do what I love to do, but Hailey has jumped right in from the get-go and has engaged in it and has been a strength and a support to it. And that's how I've been able to do it for the last 7.5 years. And it's been significantly better after having experienced a year and a half without you. Could not go back, would not recommend. I don't know why people throw bachelor parties, because that chunk of life is no fun compared to being married to Hailey. So I guess just for anybody that's not aware, today you manage our website. So everything that ever gets put up onto the Christensen Genetics website, including, putting up this podcast, once Jacob has it edited and everything, Hailey puts it up onto the website. And I guess going back to that early phase of just being married and just starting to do the website, what did it look like at that point in time for anybody else that might be in a similar situation? And maybe they're just starting, either they don't have a website and they're starting a new one, or they're just starting to manage their spouse's website, or whatever it may be. What was it like early on managing the website?
I'm going to go back just a little further.
Okay, sure.
In this question.
Yeah.
That summer when we were working together, it was that summer and then the next one. So I think it was about a year and a half that we were able to work together. We also toured a few different ranches.
Oh yeah, yep, we did.
You remember that?
I totally remember that.
Yeah. Yes, and that was a good thing to do. I learned a lot. I think from doing that, it just gave me more of a perspective on what we could have, because it was these established ranches with all the success behind them, these awesome facilities. Just seeing what they did was very inspiring to me. There was one that we visited in that time where, we went to go look through the cattle, and before that they served us a breakfast in their home, which I thought was really impressive that they would let us in their home. And at that point I thought
Brent and Nancy Thiel in Isabel, South Dakota.
It was just so nice to see. And after that I thought, I want to do that. When we hit a point that we can, I would love to do something like that. And so visiting these different ranches and seeing what we could do, it gave me more of a perspective on what we could do for our business. And so that was a good thing to do. Going back to the website, some of these ranches have awesome websites too, and so we'd kind of look through their templates and just see how they were laid out. When we decided that I would be running the website, it was more timeline wise. So Seth had started one. You'd started one. I don't know when you did.
Yeah, I had a website for an extended period of time. Yep. Never anything exciting or super developed, but it was there. A website.
Yeah, and that was one of the ways I felt like I could help, because we were discussing things that I could do that were my strengths, and managing the website was one of those things I felt like I could do. And it looked like fun, honestly. It looked like fun and something that I could do. I was willing to do it. So, I guess it just started from scratch. We also had the dogs that we were breeding at the time. And I ran both websites, one for the dog breeding that we were doing, and then the other one for the cattle. And that kind of got me used to the program we were using and the good things, the bad things about it. So it's not like I was just an expert from the get-go, but I was able to learn by doing those two things. Just hands-on learning, I think, was a good thing. You're going to have to remind me the question that you asked before, though, because I'm losing.
You're fine. You're fine. I think you're sitting fantastic. Yep. Nope. You're in good shape.
Okay.
Keep going.
Now I have to remember, though.
So you'd have been running the website. You ran both the dog website and the cattle website. This would be the early iterations of the site. So it had gone from, I had a website that was super basic to, and you actually ended up changing platforms. I had the site hosted on Squarespace, and Squarespace did a good job. It was what I learned on, so it's what I was familiar with.
And it does a great job for a lot of people.
I thought it worked well. Though the one thing we did notice, at that point in time, we were trying to run some transactions through Squarespace or through the site. And at least at that point in time, now granted this has been years ago, so I have no idea if it'd still be accurate, but at that point in time, the commission that Squarespace was charging as a platform, as a hosting platform, was about double what Wix was charging. And Wix is where you had the dog website hosted. So you were comfortable with that platform, familiar with that platform, already doing the dog website on that platform. So when I turned the website over from my control to yours, we went from Squarespace. It was a natural transition to go from Squarespace to Wix.
And it was nice because we had the established website on Squarespace, so it's not like we were just removing it entirely in that transition. I just used that as kind of my template when we first started the one on Wix.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so that's kind of how that one got started. But we were just talking through ideas of what we wanted it to look like. And from that point till now, we've gone through how many iterations? A bajillion. And probably we'll go through a bajillion more as we get rolling. And which I think is how it should be. You should constantly be making changes to make it better. And so, yeah, that's been a learning curve. But I've loved it. I really have. I think that with the websites, you need to design it so that it works for you. Because if it doesn't work for you, there's no point in having the website in the first place. If it's causing more work for you, that's bad, right?
Right. Yep.
There's no point in that. So.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, as we were putting it together and we were looking at it, I think sometimes we almost get a little lost in like what are these things that the functionalities of the website or the technicalities of the website. And I think one of the very most important things is just how frequently it's updated.
Yes, for sure.
And you've done a wonderful job of keeping it updated. You've constantly put content on the website, constantly adding things on the website. It's very consistently updated, and I think being consistently updated is probably one of the most common flaws, especially of cattle websites. A lot of them kind of get updated once a year, right before an auction, and then it sits for a year. And so I think, if somebody was maybe looking for a point to start, it would be to start with just some consistent updates. Don't worry about overhauling the whole thing, but just start with maybe some consistent updates.
I would agree there. And I would also say too, just in regards to the website and kind of where it started, like we had the Squarespace site that Seth was running. He turned it over to me and I just did, a base level, whatever. I was also doing school at the time, so I didn't have a whole lot of time to put into the website. I felt like at that point in time. But then this would have been, 2019. I was pregnant with our first. It was our daughter. I was really sick with her. And I remember just laying down in my bedroom with my computer because I was still finishing school at the time. And luckily I had just online classes that last semester. But I remember just lying down and feeling so depressed because I was in my room all the time. It was just so hard. But I would say that even though I wasn't able to go out and help Seth anymore, that was kind of the cutoff of when I stopped doing the outside work, was at that point in time. But then doing the website helped me feel like I was still helping the company because I'd been doing quite a lot with the company up to that point and just, I guess, miss feeling that connection to it. And so at that point in time was when I just was able to do the website still being in bed sick. That was something that I could do.
Right.
And so that was probably the timeline. And then as we went on from there, we let it run for a few months. I remember not feeling super confident in the site just because I hadn't gone to school for it or anything. I just created it. I hope for the best. I did some research on, search engine optimization and the analytics, making all those work for you and everything. But I wasn't comfortable enough saying this is really good and we're for sure reaching as many people as we need to reach. And so at that point, we actually looked into getting a grant, which we did end up getting. We got the grant. And it was a huge blessing that we got that grant. But then the money that we received from the grant, we just needed to figure out where we wanted to put that money. So as we were talking about it, I was just kind of insecure about the website at that point in time because I really wanted it to do what it needed to do, and I wasn't completely confident in that. So we decided that we would just use that money towards getting it professionally done. So there was a company that was referred to us. They are on another continent. It's a company that was referred to us. We went with them. And it was probably, how long did it take them to do the website? Was it like nine months
it was
for them to
slow.
do it?
And I would even jump in if I can and
Yeah.
add just one note, on the grant end of things. I mean, as anybody that's done anything with government programs of any kind knows, there's not any such thing as free money. It all has strings attached. And so this was our first experience with any kind of a grant or whatever else. And the grant was intended for international expansion. And so for basically gathering additional international web traffic was kind of the target, of what we'd applied for. And so we decided, hey, we're going to have this website professionally done.
They do it in English and also in Spanish.
Yeah, they do it in English and in Spanish, and then they'd optimize it for a Canadian and a Mexican audience, which we felt like were really natural international expansion targets, being our neighbors to the north and the south. And the thought was, if we get this grant, we can hire to have the website professionally done, and because it's professionally done, it's going to magically be superior. How much better was it? Exactly.
Well, to be fair, we are operating in such a niche market. For one, like when they were doing the website, they did exactly what we asked them to do. They made it look like the one that we had created together. So it looked the same. It had the same things on it. They essentially just copied and pasted the information we had from our website. And so it looked great, but we've noticed we weren't getting leads coming in. So we reached out to them. We reached out to them saying, this is a problem. Can we make sure that we're getting these leads to come through? And they said it should be, if I'm remembering correctly, it should all be set up fine. Not sure why the leads are coming through, but on the back end, it's fine. So we thought, okay, maybe we're just not getting any leads, which is fine. When you're starting a business, you're not always going to get leads from your website, and we understood that. But yeah, it was a significant period of time. Nothing was coming through at all. So finally we approached them and we said, hey, we're not sure if this is, working. We needed updates done fast because we're operating in such a niche market, right? And so if there's a quick change we need to make on the website, it needs to happen right then. And I'm not always good at that even to this day. Sometimes it takes me a little longer. But it was hard right then because they were across the pond, and so the time lag was just naturally difficult. We would send over, if it was in the afternoon, we needed a quick update done. It took longer because of the time difference, right? It wasn't a snappy thing.
It was like weeks because the people we were dealing with were dealing with subcontractors who were dealing with subcontractors, all of which were on different sides of the planet. And so by the time it got from us to the contractor, to the subcontractor, to the subcontractor, and then they're like, yeah, we don't know. And then by the time it got all the way back to us, it's like 2 weeks later, and we're like, what do you mean you
it's
don't
out of
know?
date. Yeah. Which I think if it was somebody needing to do an overhaul, I think that they're a great fit. And there's a lot of website designers out there that are fantastic at what they do. And so if you're looking for one, let's say you're not wanting to have an in-house website designer, you're looking to outsource that, I would just say look for somebody who can do those updates, because I think a lot of people can do the full overhaul, but you need to make sure that if you're in a niche market like us, and even if you're not, if you're a big business, I think that you need to be able to update it fast.
Yes. Yep. I think the updates have been huge. The fact that we're able to update consistently is a big deal. And that happens on our website because you do it, because Hailey's the one putting it up, and it happens quickly. I mean, if Hailey's slow, at worst, it's a day or two that it takes to get it done. Most of the time, Hailey's got an update done right away. And the challenge that we ran into in this setting was, the thought was, hey, we got this money, we spent it on professional web design, now we're going to get more leads, we're going to have a more functional website, there's going to magically just be more traffic that'll flow to us because a professional did it. And I would say, at least for me, and you can add your perspective here as well, but the takeaway would be that just because you hired somebody to do it as it relates to web design does not magically make it better. Like Hailey's website that Hailey does, it is still at this point, it's hosted on Wix. So it is hosted on a template.
It's not professionally done. I did it.
It's not coded, and it's not based on WordPress, and it's not.
And if you have those skills, that is fantastic.
That's great. And there are other, I'm sure there's other good companies that can do a good job, whatever else.
That was just our experience.
Yeah, I think the experience would be, just because we got the grant and then spent the money and put up the matching funds and whatever else to have the website professionally redone does not mean it was better or that it was improved or that it's functionality. Because, I mean, it ended up being, it set us back.
It set us back by a ways. We weren't getting leads. We weren't getting updates done.
Yeah. And so we had to rebuild the whole site and go back. We had to redo it. You know what I mean? Go back to Wix, go back to Hailey's management, go back to an in-house deal because we weren't getting any leads and we weren't getting any responsiveness and we weren't getting any updates. And so
and there was a point in time too with the website that they created. We said, can you just give us the password, teach me how to do it, I'll do all the updates. You know, just so that we wouldn't have to keep communicating with them, because it's I'm sure it was a bother for them too. They just spent the time to build this website, and then here we are on the other side of the ocean, and we're, you know, sending all these updates to be done. I'm sure it was a bother for them. Yeah, exactly. But so we said, just give us the information, and teach me how to do it. I'll just do it. So we did. But then I went on the back end, and we were getting more spam mail than we ever had before. The leads we were getting,
none of them
were getting. Leads. But yeah, they weren't leads. It was spam.
It was all spam.
And so anyway, we did go backwards. Unfortunately, that was the case. But that's just our experience, and other people might not be the case. But for us, we did learn, just because you throw money at something doesn't always automatically make it better. Right.
Yep. And I would say too that, you know, I mean, we get a lot of compliments on the website that Hailey has done, and as it currently is. Like, get a lot of kind words said about it. The functionality is good. The updates are good. Everything works as it should. And I think at the time, like you mentioned before we went to the grant website, you know, we felt a little insecure about it. Like, maybe we're missing out on something because it's not maybe professionally done per se.
Yeah.
But I think we underestimated the quality and value of your work, and we overestimated the quality and value we would receive from hiring it out. So I think if someone was to take maybe a lesson from what we learned, it would be that you can do it on a template-based site and still make a great site. You can do it in-house, literally, and and still have a great site, and that you don't need to be someone that's a professional at coding and take it all the way down to that level to put up a quality site. I would say anything that you would add to that or change or adjust, and how you'd say that.
No, I think that's pretty much it. I might have to think for just a second.
Hey guys, this is Seth Christensen with the Got Any Cows podcast. I wanted to give you guys a personal invitation to check out our website. That's gotanycows.com. Gotanycows.com is going to take you to the Christensen Genetics website. On that website, we've got a couple of different things that I would like you to take advantage of. One of the first tabs that you'll see there across the top on the Christensen Genetics website is the podcast tab. You can find any and all of the episodes that have been released there, along with full video. The next tab over would be the Learn tab. The point of everything on this tab would be to help educate somebody that maybe doesn't have cattle yet, help you prepare to be ready to own your own cows. We help people on a regular basis establish new herds, build a quality set of cattle. The Learn tab is all about being ready for cattle ownership. The next tab that you'll see on the top of the website there is the Build Your Herd tab. This is going to have our current sale inventory on it. It'll have everything from semen and embryos to females, bulls, all of the above. It's all there. There's going to be pictures there. There's going to be registration links there. There's going to be pricing there. All of the live animals on ChristensenGenetics.com come with free delivery anywhere in the continental United States included. So if you decide to purchase any of these animals, all you have to do is click the Click to Buy button that is included on each of those listings. That'll send an email to us. We'll send an invoice to you. Once you pay that invoice, we'll go ahead and schedule a brand inspection, a health inspection, and shipment to your ranch. And then after that, the next tab is the Run Your Ranch tab. So this would be where you can find information on what to do when you receive those animals, vaccination protocols, nutrition recommendations, calving recommendations, shipping, marketing, anything that you might need to do once you own the cattle. So the whole point of this website at large of gotanycows.com is meant to help you prepare to own cows, purchase the best cows you can possibly get, and then know what to do with them. So I'd invite you guys to take advantage of that resource. We built it for you. It's there to use. Please go ahead and visit gotanycows.com. Be sure to subscribe at the bottom of the page, and you'll receive updates as things are added to the site. Again, that's gotanycows.com, and we'll see you there. So Haley also does a really, really nice job with all of our accounting. And so if we're going back in our story, I guess, because all of the things that we do together now, kind of have their roots back in our last 7.5 years as a married couple and our last 10 plus years, I guess, since we started dating started going on dates.
Started going on dates. Let's specify.
You wouldn't want to be associated with me for too much of our history, right? No. But one of the things that Haley does now is manage all of our accounting and our QuickBooks software that we currently use. And I was doing a wonderful job, a great job.
You were doing a job at it.
And when we were first married, I guess, or shortly thereafter, somewhere in that window, you probably did the books with me 2 years before we finally. I tried to learn QuickBooks and failed a couple of different times, and you helped me at least file taxes, like do the once annual, dig through the mess. I think on 2 years while we were married, and then we got it turned over to you.
Probably 2.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a nightmare.
Yeah, how was that? I thought it was great. Gosh. It was just tons of fun.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. Seth operated on his own for so long before, and so there's no way. You could have learned QuickBooks, no problem. But you have other things.
I failed twice.
I'm just saying, you had to invest your time in other places, right? Yeah. At that point in time.
Yep.
Where you have me as an extra set of hands, and it's something that I could figure out and do, and I was happy to do that, That worked out. Just because you can't physically do everything, you have to let us help you at some point, right? We sat down. This would have been a couple different times. Well, and even before that, Seth would say, I need this report. And so then I'd help him put a report together. But to put the report together, you have to go back through all your transactions. And it was just a mess to get a report to whoever it was, the banker, whoever needed it at that point in time. Else, it was a nightmare. So I remember specifically us sitting down together. We did an entire year's worth of transactions in one day.
Yep. A couple of different times. Yes. It was a nightmare because with any business, you're going to have a lot of transactions. To be fair, initially, when I was an 11-year-old kid with 2 bucket calves, there weren't that many transactions.
You weren't running QuickBooks at 11 years old?
And then I was only a 15-year-old kid with just a few cows, and there weren't that many transactions. And then I was a 20-something-year-old kid, and there were a lot more transactions, but I did it the same way anyway.
It's amazing that there are more transactions that happen as your business grows. In and out.
Right. And then I thought, I'm just going to learn QuickBooks, and this will just like hiring out the website, this will solve all my problems. I'll just learn it. So I'm like, in the one designated day a year, usually like April 14th, I'm like, I'm going to document my whole year's transactions today.
Was so bad.
And learn the QuickBooks system, input all of the transactions into the QuickBooks system, and it will spit out a report that
is very accurate.
That is very accurate that my banker and the tax man need. And I have no idea how, but that effort did not work out.
It's called QuickBooks, so naturally you should get it done quick. Yeah,
I tried a couple of years and failed a couple of years.
Well, it only took us a couple of times doing it together. It was literally an Excel spreadsheet where we were going through these transactions, writing down everything in, everything out for the entire year.
I like Excel spreadsheets.
He loves Excel spreadsheets. That's another discussion. We'll get on that another time. So yes, it was just a nightmare. I don't even remember how long it took us. It took us too long. And I just thought, this is so inefficient. Why are we doing this? I knew there was a better way. And I was gladly going to take it on because I knew that Seth wasn't going to, because you were kind of a one-man show. I guess at that point you weren't. We had help, but you had been.
I had been.
And so I thought, this is something that I can do. So I learned the system, and it's taken me a while, but now that we have it kind of dialed in, it's been really nice to have records that are, 4 years? Do we have 4 years worth of records now, I think?
4 or 5, yeah.
4 or 5. But I would say for sure invest your time or your money. If you need to hire it out, It's one of those things that's worth the investment. Whether you put in the time to do it or you hire somebody to do it, it's well worth your time. Because now we can look back on all of our records from these last few years and make decisions based on those records and not just guesses.
Right.
You know, so I think that that's a valuable thing of having your records up to date, as well as if you have a bounce check or you have duplicate transactions that need to be disputed. You can be on it right then and not go through all of your year's worth and think, oh, wait, why is this a duplicate? Or what was this for? What was this $763.57
right,
for?
Right,
you know?
or why did this check come in and then go back out? Like,
exactly.
Somebody bounced the check off. Or like, or why?
But we already shipped the animal.
Right,
or,
right.
You know?
Or why does this amount show up twice? You know, that for whatever reason a transaction ran twice.
Yes.
You know, and being able to ID those things has been really valuable.
It's very valuable. And even to this day, I try to do it a couple times a week, you know, going through all of our transactions and dollars in, dollars out, sending invoices, receiving, you know, all of that fun stuff. I try to do it as often as I can, but even then I still have questions like, where did this money come from? Or what was this specific transaction for that I still need to bother Seth about sometimes, even being on it a couple times a week. And so if that's a problem, being on it a couple times a week, you better believe it's going to be a problem if you're not on it all year long. Mm-hmm. So that would be my advice, is getting on something that's going to help you in that regard with finances, just to stay on top of your records, because those records are important. They can give you a lot of information. If you have accurate records, it can show you the things that you're spending the most money on, the things that are bringing in the most money. And we have learned, having those records, we've learned some of the things that we can let go because they're not making us any money, and they're kind of a pain to deal with. You know, we can let them go and be fine.
Yep. And I think, you know, one of the real resources that we found was there's a local technical college. So Bridgerland Technical College is here in the valley with us, and they offered what do they call the course?
It's a farm and ranch management course.
Yeah.
Is what they offer. And so what that course is, you don't go to a classroom setting and learn all of this stuff. They have the instructor come to your ranch and go through your transactions. So when we found dear Catherine, we love her. She's helped us so much.
Is a champion. We love her. Yeah.
She's fantastic. And we have that resource available in our valley. So we're very grateful for her for coming and helping me learn it so that we can feel confident in those transactions coming through. Because I can confidently give Seth a report saying this is for sure what has come in and what has come out, because it's not just me having eyes on it. It's having a professional also have eyes on it. So it's both of us. And so that's been a very valuable resource.
And it's so nice for me whenever I mean, there's always, on any given day, there's a million phone calls in and out. And if I've got somebody saying, hey, I need to ship this, I can know for sure, has it or has it not been paid for, you know, because I don't ever want to bill anybody. I don't ever want anybody to pay 0 times, and I don't ever want anybody to pay 2 times. I want everybody to pay exactly once. The same is with all of our bills and all the accounts payable that we have. I don't want any of them paid twice. I don't want any of them paid 0 times. I want them all paid exactly once. And just having something as simple as that, is knowing we know every account receivable has been paid. We know every account payable has been paid.
Yes.
Exactly once.
Yes.
And when and how. And keeping track of all those things, because I know for certain, prior to having an accounting software set up and my beautiful wife here to run it, that there were occasions where, you know, even like invoices or accounts receivable would have just completely been dropped or forgotten about or fell through the cracks. Or
it's easy to do.
Intentionally or unintentionally, people didn't pay, you know, for different things. But I was too busy doing all of the other things to ever watch that close. And I think, you know, and now, instead of it being like, oh, it's a nuisance that the banker needs some statements or whatever else, now I can have Hailey pull up anytime at a moment's notice. If I say, hey, I need a year-to-date profit and loss, or hey, I need a comparison of the last 3 years. What's our balance sheet growth been? You know, or what I need a comparison of the last 3 years. What's our P&L done? Or I need to know what our top income categories are, our top expense categories. I need to know which expense categories are seeing the most growth, or which income categories are seeing the most growth. Hailey can do all those things and compare it across years. And now it's actionable intelligence for me as a business owner. Instead of it just being a chore and a problem and I grit my teeth once a year and try to plow through a year's worth of transactions and learn QuickBooks and log it all in one day. Now it's an asset rather than a liability. Our bookkeeping is an asset to us because Hailey provides that service.
Well, thank you. It's one that every business needs, whether it's in-house or outsourced. So you just spend the money or the time either way to get it done.
Yep. Yep. And I think, those having those things, I mean, number one, obviously having you as my wife and having your support of me as we work together on this business and on raising our family here is of immense value. But then having the help that you provide on both the website and on the accounting can't be overstated. I mean, if anything here at Christensen Genetics is ever well represented, it's because Hailey put it on the site. If anything is ever well kept track of, it's because Hailey kept track of it in our accounting. And if our kids turn out even half decent, it's because they've got a wonderful mother. And so I am grateful for you.
Well. Thank you.
I am grateful for you.
No, I'm grateful that there's an aspect of the business that I can help with. Yeah. Because getting married, I wasn't sure what my role was going to be, honestly, coming into this. And so I very much appreciate that to this day Seth asks for my input and my advice, even though I know he knows more than I do about business specifically. I appreciate that you still ask me, you value my input. That just means a lot to me. So thank you for doing that. And to be a part of this company, to help each other in the home, at work, it just is a really good fit for us, and I'm grateful for that.
Absolutely. Is there anything else, Hailey Mae, that you would like to throw in for people from our story or from your experience with the website or accounting or any other things you'd like to throw in?
I think the last thing I would say is just pinpoint those inefficiencies in your business. Pinpoint those, invest the time, the money, the resources, whatever you need to do to make them efficient and help you, because that's really, we all need help, right? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, just getting the help you need.
Yep. And I would say for any of the young men listening that you can marry an awesome girl, and if you marry the right girl, literally everything else will work out. And I think that pretty well wraps us up for today on this episode of the Got Any Cows podcast here with my wife, Hailey Mae Christensen. This has been another episode of the Got Any Cows podcast. If you guys would like to follow along, be sure to check out gotanycows.com, and you can go to the podcast tab and watch all of the prior episodes there as well. We appreciate you listening in, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Got Any Cows podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, and visit us anytime at gotanycows.com.